Dzień dobry, ja jestem Nervarien i Riot Games wypuścił filmy 4 na start sezonu 13, który się zaczyna jak coś w środę, gdzieś tam nad ranem, około 5 nad ranem, jeśli ktoś jeszcze nie wiedział z jakiegoś powodu. I wypuścili dosłownie pół godziny temu 4 filmy. Tutaj coś o sezonie 13, tutaj coś o zachowaniu graczy, tutaj jakieś update'y, co tam chyba zamierzają po prostu robić. I jeszcze jaki jest stan gry. Także obejrzymy sobie to wszystko i zobaczymy, co tam nas czeka w sezonie 13. Ja sobie to przyspieszę trochę, myślę, bo to trochę, kurde, czasu zajmie. Jak coś to będę stopował.
Hey everyone,
Siema.
I'm Riot Brightmoon, executive producer of League of Legends. And I'm here on behalf of the entire League dev team to welcome you to season 2023. First off, I want to wish you all a happy start of a new season. And I want to thank you for the marks you've all made on League.
Spoko.
From the hype plays to the big brain moments, and all the ways you've helped make
O, to
League
były
what it
piękne
is
wolcy.
today. We have a lot to share with you, including our final updates on Ahri and Aurelion Sol, some upcoming skin thematics, an update on Ranked, and a sneak peek at some champions we'll be releasing later this year. But before we get into what's coming, I want to share a quick recap of this year's preseason.
O Jezu,
So let's go.
podsumowanie presezonu. Co tu podsumowywać? Do dupy był ten presezon. Weź, przeproś po prostu za ten presezon.
Chemtech Drake has had a major glow up. In her new and improved form, instead of resurrecting friends and foes,
Sponsorów zabrać? A, mogę schować. Może się nie obrażam, co?
she now mutates all the plants on the map with Chemtech empowerments.
No fajny
She'll
jest
do
ten
what you're
smoczek,
used to,
fajny jest, lubię
only
go.
now with a twist. And each time you defeat the Chemtech Drake, she'll grant stacking tenacity plus healing and shielding power. If you claim the soul, you'll deal increased
po co nam
damage
o tym
and
mówisz
receive
znowu?
damage resistance when at low health, including the push, bait,
Dobra, to podsumowanie to
and
come on.
patience.
Dobra, no
Fuse
fajnie
on the
zrobiliście,
map,
dobra.
feeling fair
Ej,
and
dużo
fun
ludzi
for
narzeka na
both
te
teams.
aramy, że jest skijowe. To się
Now
nie
that
fajnie
we've
gra
covered
teraz.
preseason changes, let's talk about some of the new things coming
A no nie
this
wiem, ja nie
season.
grałem. Chyba ani razu nie zagrałem arama w sumie po tych zmianach. Chyba.
After a year of waiting, we're
Oh,
finally
dobra.
releasing Ahri's ASU. Her base, her skins, new VFX, splashes, and all 9 tails have been updated and will be out for all of you in
Czy
just
ty,
a
kocie,
few
masz
weeks.
czkawkę?
We can't wait to see what you think of her new look.
No odświeżają to Mari. A, spoko. Dużo ludzi gra Ari. Ari ma dużo skinów. Spoko. Fajnie się gra aramy? Nudne, średnie, fajnie, dobrze, świetnie. Kurde, no to ciekawe.
There are a few champions who haven't gotten a new skin in a while, including Aurelion Sol, Ivern,
Event dostanie skina.
Kled,
Wow.
and Callista. And I have some good news. They'll all be receiving a new skin this year. Callista's skin is coming to
Oh.
us from a world of beauty and magic,
Okay.
nature and majesty.
Spoko.
Fairy Queen presides over the courts of the 4 seasons, and the Fae who reside there are empowered by the natural world and the magic within it. Not all within the Fae world is light and beauty. After we leave the Fae realms, we're returning to a fan favorite. It's a little bit more adorable than beautiful. The skin line that brought you Pugma,
Oh.
Corky Corgi, and York in a
Okay.
cat onesie is coming back. So open up some catnip, dust off your chew toys, because more champions are getting fluffy. These are just a
To
few
linia
of the
skórek jest całkiem spoko.
new things we
A
have
właśnie,
planned.
jeszcze chciałem zaznaczyć, że CEO Riotu powiedział, że sezon 13 dają największy budżet na League of Legends ever. Także mam nadzieję, że coś pokażą z tego, co rzeczywiście
For season 2023.
wpłynie na
I'll
to.
hand it over to Riot Oberon, who will share our plans for Ranked.
Będzie więcej
Hey
skinów
everyone,
i
I'm Chris
przepustek?
Roberts,
O,
known as Riot
jakiś
Oberon,
nowy. Pierwszy raz go widzę.
the project lead for the Game Loop team. We work on things like champ select,
Tego gościa nie
matchmaking,
było jeszcze
and the
nigdy.
various queue types from rank to normals. That means we're not just focused on ladder grinders, we're also here for players who just want to have a good time with friends. Last year, we shared a blog update with some of our upcoming plans, including anonymized champion select, pick order swapping, and the loadout argument.
Nie wiem, mi się to podoba chyba, że jest anonimowe. Z jednej strony jest to dobre, z drugiej, no wiadomo, no niekiedy mogłeś jakiegoś nobasa, kurde, wypatrzyć. No takie mieszane uczucia trochę są co do tego. Niby jest okej, ale też no niekiedy dobrze było wiedzieć.
Commander. Since then, we've also been working on a few other projects, and there's one big thing I want to talk to you about today,
O,
the mid-year ranked reset.
o, okej, no to wiemy.
Ranked splits have been in the game for a few years, but until now, they were just a way to separate the single ranked season into thirds to help folks pace their progress. Starting this year, the 2 ranked splits will have a full ranked reset in between, with rewards to match. Here's the thing, a lot of players come back to
Czy to był Battle Pass, czy to było tak dla każdego?
league at the start of the season, ready for their climb to their ranked goals. But when we look at the data, it doesn't actually take the whole season for players to hit their peak rank if they've been playing consistently every patch. If you don't take your foot off the gas once you start your climb in January, you'll probably reach the peak of your climb around halfway through the year. After that, things can get a little rough. For players at higher ranks, the middle of the year can be a stress fest of playing just enough to avoid becoming
Ciekawe, kiedy się ten sezon pierwszy, czy no, split pierwszy będzie się kończył.
demoting. And once players realize they're not steadily climbing, many of them either drop out of ranked or turn to smurfing. Neither of these things are great for fair matchmaking or enjoyable league experiences, especially for players starting their climb later in the season. All in all, there are honestly a lot of reasons why most other games, other Riot games included, don't have year-long ranked seasons. So this year, we're getting with the times.
Nie wiem, moim zdaniem to jest spoko opcja. Mi się to podoba, tylko ja też jestem gościem, który napieprza w tę grę ostro. Gra dużo tych gier, ale dużo ludzi, którzy gra bardziej tak, wiecie, casualowo, widziałem komentarze, że narzekają, że im się to nie podoba. Ale nie wiem, no, dla mnie to jest fajne, bo rzeczywiście jest coś takiego, że zazwyczaj gdzieś tam w okolicach wakacji właśnie ludzie już trochę luzują z tymi rankedami, już aż tak nie zależy. Takie mam wrażenie.
Split 2 starts, it won't be as heavy a reset as the one in January. We're not
Aha, czyli to jest miękki reset. Czyli nie będzie aż tak. Okej.
introducing a second preseason, so the game won't change dramatically enough to warrant making you re-earn your rank to the same extent. And if you've got something keeping you AFK for the first half of the year, don't worry. The mid-year reset is even less significant if you haven't played many games since January.
Aha.
We know this is a huge change, but
No
it's
to
one we think will help
myślałem, że to będzie taki sam jak w styczniu, ale skoro nie, no to jeszcze ma mniejsze znaczenie tak naprawdę.
League feeling modern and fun while addressing a few of the pain points we've seen over the years. Okay, that was a lot. Let's end things on a high note by talking about the shiny stuff. Rewards. Each split, you can earn the full rank reward suite. Icons and emotes, ranked
No.
borders, and a ranked skin. Yes, that means there will be 2 skins for rank this year. We're also adding in some extra rewards to your climb as you progress on your ranked journey. In addition to this, we're also removing the gold rank requirement from ranked skins. Now, every ranked player will have the chance to earn the skin moving forward, with chromas to match your final rank. The skin will continue to reflect your final ranked achievement, but we want you to also be able to earn it through dedication to climbing. That said, if you're below gold, it won't be as easy as play 10 placements for a free skin. The number of games required to earn the skin is drastically higher below gold, so just because you now can earn it at silver or below, doesn't mean you will. That wraps things up for me.
Ej, ma strasznie dziwny wzrok ma ten gościu. Boję się go. Jakiś taki psycho trochę. Nie? Jakiś taki niepokój czuję, jak patrzę na niego.
Up next is Riot Lexical, who's going to talk to you about our plans for champions this year. Thanks, and good luck
No,
on
co
your...
do tych nagród, to już był kiedyś film, nagrywałem. No, nie wiem, czy to jest fajne. Zobaczymy, ile rzeczywiście gier trzeba będzie zagrać, żeby odebrać te Victory skiny. Zobaczymy.
climbs.
Hi everyone, Lexi
Siema.
Ryan Gal, the product lead for Champions here. I'm going to talk a bit about some of the new champions we have planned for this year.
Okej.
But before that, I want to touch on our plans for the year overall. This season, we're focusing a bit more on smaller updates to the parts of the champion roster that has been left in the dust.
Więcej reworków. Okej.
We want to continue improving older champions'
Ej, ma taki głosik jak z jakiegoś anime, nie?
gameplay fantasies, so we'll be doing more mid-scope updates throughout 2023.
Super! Więcej reworków, to mi się podoba. Brawo.
And beyond gameplay changes, we'll also be polishing up some of the roster with much-needed VO updates for a few of
Aha, aktualizacja dubbingu dla Lidala i Varusa. Okej.
our older champions like Nidalee and Varus, both of whom cross path with some of our upcoming champions.
Krzyżują się ścieżki. Ciekawe. Romanizy, dzięki za 3 miesiące. Chyba. Dobry.
First up this year is Aurelion Sol's CGU. In the last LoL Please, we showed you some of the updated abilities that fans the flame of his dragon fantasy. But we didn't go too deep into the parts of his kit that strengthen his star forging theme. Not only can Aurelion Sol forge stars like a nebula in deep space, but he can now drop them from the sky onto his foes in Summoner's Rift. Ooh, ouch. As we mentioned before in the last video, his new passive causes all of his abilities to grow in size over the course of the game.
To ma takie staki Aurelion Sol ogólnie. Jakiś gwiezdny pył to się będzie nazywało. Że jak używasz skilli i jakby trafiasz przeciwników, to będziesz zbierał gwiezdny pył i za pomocą tego jakby wszystkie skille będą lepsze ogólnie.
Including his new ultimate.
O! Kod na klawiaturze, sorry.
Dropping a massive star you forge in outer space on someone's head. We can't wait to see what you all think of the new and improved Starforger, and we hope a lot of you will find a new main with him. After Aurelion Sol, we'll be
Chyba dopiero w 13.3 ma być ten Aurelion Sol. Czyli to będzie dopiero Kurczę, jest jakiś miesiąc czy coś.
releasing some brand new champions.
Gdzieś w lutym chyba.
One of our goals for the past few years has been to make sure we have a champion for everyone to enjoy. So we try to have a diverse champion pool that's inclusive of all cultures, genders, and in-game skill levels for every role. And that brings us to our first new champion of the year.
Nowy czempion. Mylio.
I'm super
Panie
excited
Damianie, czy skiny czarującej Aniwi zostały rozlosowane? Jako main Aniwi czuję się zoidzony. Na jakiej zasadzie jest to losowane? Napisałem taką ładną rozprawkę i nie udało się wygrać.
Tak, było rozlosowane. Do końca roku musiałem rozlosować, także poszło wszystko. Polecam Twittera śledzić.
for all of you to meet our male enchanter from the
Zaklinacz
displaying
z
an incredible
Lichtenstein.
understanding of the fire axiom at a young age. Melio uses fire not to raise cities, but to
Ognia. Okej, ognisty support, tak?
soothe wounds. Now he travels to Ishalcan, carrying the hopes and dreams of his family on his back, along with his trusty backpack.
Ciekawe, czego pokażą.
He's about to face the biggest
Plecak będzie
challenge
nosił?
of his young life, the Vidalian. His journey to Ishalcan will broaden his horizons and introduce him to new people and places, but it'll also bring him closer to Yuntao's darkest secrets. But no matter what challenges come, he'll always bounce back into action and be ready for his next adventure.
Okej, Nafiri. Dziwna nazwa.
After we're done with the adorable enchanter, we're moving on to something a bit edgier. I know some of you love complex champions and novel length skill descriptions.
No tak.
But others wants to focus on macro play and pounce into action with a straightforward hit. If that sounds like you, good news. Nefiri is a Darkin for you.
Darkin,
She's a
okej.
melee assassin made for those of us who want to
Melee Assassin.
focus on the hunt. After awakening from her slumber, her first objective is to track down her Darkin brethren. Her
Ej, czekaj,
newfound
bo Darkiny mają zawsze jakąś broń przypisaną taką, nie? Ciekawe co ona ma. A czekaj, to nie... Chwila, była taka już coś. Sztylet ma, tak? Nie?
or bodies seems like a cruel twist of fate at first, but they prove useful for locating her fellow Darkin, and as a source of wisdom. After all, it's always better to hunt in a pack. I have some bad news though. Unfortunately, Nefiri is the only champion this year without a shirt. We
Kobieta bez koszulki? Tego? Relaxaj też jest bez koszulki.
know how much you all love abs, so don't worry. We'll be looking for more opportunities next year.
Okej, Skarner. No tam.
It's been a while since we spoke about everyone's favorite crystal scorpion. The Skarner VDU team has started exploring ways to dial up his scorpion fantasy. At this phase,
Skręca cię, jak ją widzisz i słuchasz? Ej, a mi się podoba jej głos.
we're leaving no arthropod
Sam się sobie dziwię, ale mam przyjemny ten głos.
stone and turn to find exciting themes, kits, and stories. We'll be releasing a dev blog later this year with more information on his progress. Looking further
Spoko.
out, we also have a hangry jungler and an artistic mid laner.
Głodny dżungler i uzdolniona artystycznie środkowa postać. Czyli tamta Darkinka będzie na topa w takim razie? No bo będzie support, ma być dżungler, ma być midlaner. Czyli ten Assassin Darkin będzie na topie chyba, tak? No bo zazwyczaj chyba robią tak, że na każdą rolę robią.
Who are looming in the distance. They're a bit too early
Na mida ma być ta Darkinka, tak? Okej, dobra.
to talk about at the moment, but look out for future teasers. That's all from me today. I'll hand it back to Riot Brightmoon for some final thoughts.
Dzięki, pa.
That pretty much wraps up things for today. But I do have one small update I want to share before we go. For years, you've been asking us for the ability to play League in any language, no matter where you
Oh.
are. I'm happy to share that later this year, you'll be able to select your language in League settings.
Fajnie.
We hope this makes your experience a little bit more enjoyable.
Znaczy i tak można to było robić chyba za pomocą zmieniania jakiegoś tam pliku. Ale spoko.
Where you're playing from or what language you speak.
Ty, takiego lola po japońsku chcę odpalić? Chyba spróbuję. Brakuje, dzięki za 3 miesiące.
I also want to remind everyone who has Xbox Game Pass to link it to your Riot account. This way, you can unlock every champion for free
No.
and get a 20% experience boost for as long as it's active. We have a lot more in store for this year, and we cannot wait to share
A
them
co z
later.
Prime Gaming? Halo?
Thank you so much for watching. Best of luck on your climb, and I'll see you on the Rift.
Kurczę, ale prawda jest taka, że jakichś takich nowych rzeczy to... No te dwa... Znaczy no zapowiedzieli Championy i to tyle. Reszta to jest taka... No bez konkretów trochę, nie? Ale są jeszcze kolejne filmiki. No dobra, lecimy z następnym w takim razie. No tutaj, no fajnie, że nowe Championy pokazali, ale reszta taka Nie będę ciekawego. Dobra, player behavior. I tutaj już chyba, no nie wiem, czy będą polskie napisy, chyba nie będą. Tylko po polsku? Czekaj, chyba, że dodali może tutaj. No nie, tutaj tylko jeden film wrzucili, no nie wiem czemu. Także będziemy po angielsku musieli. Wrzucę napisy, może te, może będzie okej. To bym chciał więcej? Kurczę, nie wiem. Albo jakieś przedmioty. Też przedmioty już weszły w presezonie. Jakieś zmiany na mapie może. Coś dodanie czegoś. Nie wiem. Coś by mogli. A nie wiem co. Nową mapę na przykład, albo nowy tryb, czy coś w tym stylu. No.
Dynamics here at Riot. Hi, I'm Wes.
Siema. Ej, znowu jakieś nowe osoby, kurde, w tym Riocie. Pierwszy raz ich widzę.
Dynamics here at Riot.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm the head of the behavioral systems team on League of Legends.
What better way to start off a new year than to talk about player behavior?
This topic is never easy to talk about. Unfortunately, we've seen over the last several years that there's been really negative trends in how our players are feeling about
No
player
prawda.
behavior. There's definitely a lot more work to do, and I will say that again and again.
Just to speak a little bit for like the greater we, because we have your team. It's doing amazing work. We have central player dynamics working on the
No, czy robi amazing work, kurde? Nie wiem, bo no jest toksyczny jak... No bardzo toksyczny jest.
game agnostic systems, and there's a good partnership there. There's social and player dynamics over on Valorant. So we've got all these folks that are working together and thinking in this space. What has your team been working on?
Nad czym pracowała twoja drużyna? No zobaczmy, czym się pani zajmowała.
What has made
Jej zespół.
the biggest impact as far as we can tell so far?
One of the big things that we released is an auto mute feature, which auto
Co robicie, żeby walczyć z toksycznością? No, wbudowaliśmy, że możesz zmutować. Ja pierdolę, no nie.
automatically
O
mutes players
kurde.
using inappropriate language
Niezłe,
in
niezłe.
game when it happens. And so that message will not be sent and players will be notified that those players have been muted.
Jak walczycie z toksycznością? No zamknęliśmy ich mordy po prostu.
And we saw
That's
really,
okay.
really positive player feedback from that, which was super exciting. We know that
Ale-
verbal abuse leads to...
Ale nie no, prawda jest taka, że no ja często korzystam z tego, że mutuję wszystkich po prostu i bardzo często gram już na full mucie po prostu, no bo ciężko się gra w Lola, jako dżungler zwłaszcza, z niektórymi ludźmi niestety.
spiral of negativity that causes even more disruption in game. So we've partnered with your team who own a really robust verbal abuse detection
Co to
software.
znaczy robust? Pierwszy raz słyszę to słowo. Solidny, silny, krzepki. O, okej. Pierwszy raz słyszę to słowo.
And that has just leveled up our ability to make these places safer.
One thing that we knew from research was that the quicker you take, action on a behavior, like a problem behavior, the more effective it's going to be. So this is more visible, but have there been other things that maybe just kind of flew under the radar
For
that didn't get
sure.
noticed because it wasn't so visible?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've seen our players talk about a lot is intentional feeding. And that is one of the most frustrating behaviors that we see in
Blisko
game.
Nunu.
Well, one of the challenges with intentional feeding is the whole intentional part.
Absolutely.
Like, how do you detect intent? And we know from all kinds of social
Jak wykryć, że ktoś robi to intencjonalnie? No nie wiem, może na przykład jeśli ktoś jest streamerem, albo jeśli ktoś nagra dane zdarzenie, to możesz na przykład wysłać je do Riotu i na podstawie tego możecie ich zbanować. Na przykład.
science that in lieu of knowing someone's intent, we assume it. And so, that's tough. That isn't to say, by the way, the players are wrong.
Yeah.
Right? They may be seeing it, but if we're going to automatically detect it, we have to have a certain level of confidence that it's actually happening.
We built a whole new model over the last year, making our intentional feeding detection a lot more robust. We've been able to increase the amount of detections by over 200%
200%, okej.
and have specific thresholds and
O! Im wyższy MMR, tym inaczej jest wyłapywany intentional feeding. To bardzo ciekawe w sumie.
levels for different MMRs, basing it on skill because
Napisy polskie albo tłumacz? Ty, no co wy, nie ogarniacie takiego prostego angielskiego? Ludzie. 2023. Napisy są po polsku? Nie, no właśnie nie... Czekaj. O kurczaki. Dobra, dzięki stary.
we can identify how
Dobra.
different players play our games. A number of the other features we released that weren't so visible to our players but have made impact are things like champion select reporting. So when players are in champion select and they come across disruptive
Ciekawy jestem, czy nadal tak jest. Nie wiem, czy wiecie, ale jeśli zreportujecie kogoś i później ktoś zdodżuje tę grę, to ten report nie dochodzi jakby. Ciekawy jestem, czy nadal tak to działa.
behavior, we're able to action on those reports and really make that experience better.
I suppose it inspires a thought then. So, of course, behavior doesn't happen in isolation. But it's important to recognize that because we might be addressing the wrong problem, right? We might be seeing a symptom. For instance, like intentional feeding, no excuses, right? But sometimes it might just be an outcome of other things that have happened.
Absolutely.
Right? We've seen that with, it can happen if you don't get to play the role that you want, or even have a bad day. It might not even have anything to do with the game, but what happens in life happens in games, so you bring it in.
What we're finding is it's actually 95% of our players are only occasionally disruptive.
95% graczy zachowuje się czasem nieodpowiednio. Okej.
They contribute to over 80% of the reports in our games, which means the vast majority of disruptive behaviors are done by all of us, you and me. We get tilted in games.
Indeed we do.
And we exhibit these behaviors too. So we found that it's not just about that one approach of punishing all those really disruptive players. It's about that holistic approach where we can identify, yes, there are some players who we do want to remove out of our ecosystem.
Trochę mało
but the
ciekawy jest ten
large
film na
majority
razie.
of us are actually really positive, and we want to be able to build features where we can celebrate that.
Quite often when we talk about the player dynamics space, we're describing it as we want to make it safe to be social and more rewarding
Skip ten film, czekaj, przyspieszę na 1,5, bo na razie rzeczywiście nic nie gadałem ciekawy.
online for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the really great things that we've done over the last year to target that population is really building on our honor system.
Rozwinięcie systemu honoru. Proszę cię, kobieto, przecież ten system jest do wyjebania co najwyżej. Wiesz, to nic nie robi. Nie. Przecież ten system honoru jest tak useless. No proszę cię, no przecież nie widzisz tego?
So we increase the rewards significantly with a new
Ja pierdzie. Nie, no niemożliwe, że w to wierzysz.
skin that is phenomenal. I hope you all have it.
No bias whatsoever.
No bias. Honor recall VFX as well, where our players can really showcase their honor in game, even if they don't necessarily play with that champion, play with that skin.
We make games. We're not
No
trying to
nie,
police
nie
this
wiem,
space.
czy się zgodzę z
It's to
tym.
be great game experiences. So we're figuring out what our role is. Like when I look back on League, it's not what like we made that I remember. It's those great esports moments, right? Or it's the teams that were playing and the audiences. They got so excited about this. That's we can really come together and do something. Those kinds of moments. As cosplayers, like the creativity, how they bring the world that we put into our games to life. It's incredible. And so when we think about community's involvement, like, yes, we know we're going to need to deal with the negative stuff. Reducing bad does not create more good, any more than reducing sodium in your diet doesn't make our food more nutritious. So we got to do both, because otherwise, we're kind of aiming for neutral. And that's not why any of us come to games. I mean, anybody who's played League to any extent knows that there's a high mastery curve, right? And you're never done. But it's that possibility, right, that brings us to this. I mean, we see that in our games. It's what we all share in this culture. It's like, yeah, we come for the possibility.
We've redefined what it means to
A co chodziło z tą przemową?
be a sport, even. I don't see why we can't redefine what it means to be an online community.
What are your thoughts about what's next?
So we're so
No.
excited for 2023. There's so many learnings that we can pull from things like the feedback loop with our players. So players really seeing in that moment, what was the behavior that caused the disruption, and taking action on that immediately.
Ej, fajne by było, jak jest rzeczywiście koniec gry i ktoś dostaje bana, wiesz, jakby dajesz tego reporta, ktoś dostaje bana i fajnie by było, jakby wszystkim wyskoczyło informacja, że ktoś dostał bana w tej grze za to. To by było fajne w sumie. Tak jest chyba w Valorancie, nie? Że wyskakuje, że ktoś dostał bana w tej grze, czy coś w tym stylu.
Or as soon as possible, so players understand where we define what the behavioral expectations are in game. Having ways for our players to contribute to those expectations and really appreciating them for when they do so. Because as you said, it's a co-created community, it's a co-created space. We want our players to be able to contribute as much as possible to making it a community that we're all really proud to be a part of. My dream is to have League be a place where people aren't only coming for the pinnacle of competition, where they're also coming for the community, and a place where we are all wanting to contribute to this community, and we're proud to. And we're also proud to invite our friends and our family and everyone we love to this great community.
You know, I can't think.
No i nie wiem, czy życzę komuś, żeby zaprosił swoją rodzinę do grania w LoL'a. Ale nie wiem.
Of a better theme, like to start off a new year than possibility. And so I suppose with that in mind, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate you listening.
Dobra, no nic ciekawego w tym filmie nie było w sumie. Nudy trochę. Nic ciekawego. Dobra, idziemy dalej. Co to jest? Midscope Updates. No dobra. Czyli pewnie coś będzie więcej o tym skarnerze, tak?
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna buff Blitzcrank, we're gonna buff Soraka, we're gonna buff AD Yumi.
Okay. Well, now the cameras are rolling, so we should
Znowu nowe osoby. Co jest?
probably get to our talk.
Okay.
So we're here to talk about Midscopes today. My name is Tim. I'm a designer on the Summoners Rift team. I've done a few mid-scopes in the past, like Syndra, Swain, and a long time ago Rammus, and I'm here with my
O, to bardzo fajne reworki robił gościu akurat, muszę przyznać.
friends.
I'm Ezra. I'm also a designer on the Summer's Rift team. I do item balance systems, that kind of thing. Previously, I worked on Rengar as a midscope, and I'm currently working on Neeko.
I'm August.
Okay.
I'm the lead champion designer. And
O, to jest ten, co on zrobił Zeri, prawda?
midscopes I've worked on is most recently
Czyli to
Jax,
nie
and
on.
then before that, Talia.
And the first question
Nie,
we have
dobra,
to
to chyba nie on. Nie wiem.
answer, which I'm sure is on a lot of players' minds, is what is a midscope and what sets it apart from balance work, DGUs, CGUs, ASUs, ABCs, whatever, letters.
To jest ten gościu? Nie, inny był chyba. A czekaj, zmienię na polski. Sorry. Kto do mnie pisze? Siemanko. Jutro o 8 startuje sezon? W środę. O 7 chyba. Parys nie wie.
all that stuff.
Probably the best way to say it, like in a big summary, is VGU, Visual Gameplay Update, is kind of like a new champion. A midscope is like refreshing a champion. So with the VGU, like say what we did with Pantheon or Aurelia, you got a very new champion out of that. You got new animations, new sounds, new BO, new kit, and that's an important part. Whereas a midscope is a lot more about refreshing a current character for its current players.
In its essence, it's taking the fantasy
No
of the
dobra,
character. We're not
no
making a
wiemy,
new
co to
character,
jest.
we're not making a new fantasy, and making it a 12 out of 10. Like, how far can we push this so that players feel like, oh, for Swain, I'm this huge demon bird that can be in the middle of their team. Or for Talia, that I'm actually an Earth Weaver, and I'm not punished by using my Q.
And then the second part about midscopes that's really important here is that because they're on lower scope in terms of work, they're on shorter timelines. Some only take like 1 or 2 months, and which means we can get them out a lot faster.
So how do we go about finding a good target for a midscope, right? Because there's a lot of different projects we do. What defines...
Ty, w sumie no ciekawe, w jaki sposób wynajdują czempiony, które trzeba zreworkować? Po pickrate, czy po czym?
how we find a target for a VGU versus random patchwork that me and Ezra do on a 2-week basis.
When a character feels like they maybe have lost their place in the game, or they feel a bit stale, they feel like they might not have as much of a purpose as they used to, a designer can look at a midscope and say, hey, is there some way to like really refresh who this character is in the game and what their place is in the entire league roster? In the past, we've done midscope-like projects. A lot of them have been really good. We've done Xin Zhao, Tom Kench, Sona, Rengar. We've done projects like this. But a lot of times when we do like this level of work, it's framed in terms of problems. Back in the day when we did the original work on Talia, that players said, Talia's a pro problem, we need to fix her for mid lane. And we succeeded in that, but it was like kind of a cost to Talia players, as opposed to possibly a benefit. And so a lot of midscopes are framed in terms of not problems, but opportunities. It's about asking the question, hey, I see this character, and I see somewhere that they could be even cooler, even better. And maybe we fix some problems along the way, but it's about
powiedzcie, co planujecie, panowie,
that we
no.
can really play up and enhance. So you worked on Neeko, you worked on Syndra. How do we select midscopes? Like, is there a method to how we're choosing these projects?
The way I see
Znaczy,
it,
to, że robią Neeko, to już było wiadomo od jakiegoś czasu. No i w sumie ciekawy jestem tego, bo Neeko rzeczywiście jest jakaś taka nijaka, nikt tym nie gra, nie?
for the most part, it's strong passion for a character. Someone who's like deeply involved with the character, deeply interested in the character's success. They understand the character. You know, some of these characters have been live for years and years and years, so you've played them a lot. You truly understand the failings and the opportunity. I play Neeko. I used to play her a lot, actually, and I was just like, at the end of the day, I was like, this character isn't... I want to have fun, and she's not letting me, right?
No.
I want to do all these things, and I want to trick people, I want to catch people, and then I just can't, right? And she's still fun, she's still fine, but she could be so much more.
That type of message is what we want to have for midscopes, which is, it's not about problems, it's not about meeting a schedule or stuff like that. It's really about finding a fantasy and seeing if we can enhance that for the players, right? Yeah. That's what midscope is.
And sometimes like midscope can come from like, you know, just years of players telling us something. There's a lot of Swain players who, for a few years after his rework, were like, hey, I want to play this guy mid, and I feel like I can't play him mid. And he was powerful mid in terms of win rate, but that didn't mean he felt powerful or that he was super fun there. And we would constantly have
Ale
Swain
nie
players
powiedzą
telling
coś
us,
tutaj ciekawego w tym filmie? No o co chodzi z tymi filmami?
it's like, hey, yeah, I can
Gadają, żeby gadać, kurde?
play this guy support. He's a cool support, but what about mid lane? I want that mid Swain back. And that was actually, I think, one of the inspirations for the work that ended up being done to Swain.
I think it's important to note that it's not other players who might like Swain. It's Swain players who feel like their character isn't working for them. Well, the goal of midscopes isn't make a character more popular. Like, everyone plays character. It's the players who love this character actually feel like the character is working for them.
I think there's probably a question of like, you've done Silas, you've done Tom Kench, you've done Sona, Xin Zhao. Why are you calling these things midscopes now? Like, what's the point of that? By saying, hey, we're doing this project, it's called midscopes. This is the amount of resources they need. We can plan for them ahead of time so that when a designer, like say Tim, is like, hey, I want to do a Syndra change, but it's going to need a new queue. Instead of us saying to Tim, hey, you can't do that, we don't have any resources to make a new queue, we can say, okay, we can plan for that. We can slot that in, and then we'll get it out to players in 2 months.
Now that we've covered about what midscopes are and how we pick them out and what we want to do, what can
Super, mamy film, który trwa 7 minut i 5:45 trwa wytłumaczenie, o czym będą gadać. I będą gadać przez półtorej minuty teraz o tym, o czym chcą gadać. Ja pierdykam, naprawdę.
players expect in 2023 for midscopes?
This isn't set in stone right now, but it's something we'd like to work up to. Is long term, if we could be shipping a midscope, say once every 2 months, then we could do things like put out a midscope roadmap for players, say, hey, here's the midscopes we're thinking about this year, and set better expectations for like maybe your character could get one. I think one thing that can be rough as a League of Legends player is if you
Coś tam był Jax pokazany, Jax będzie miał zmianę, że jego RK będzie inaczej działać.
your character needs an update, it might be years before they actually get it. But with midscopes, they succeed similar to a VGU in like revitalizing the champion without necessarily taking all that extra time, which means we can do more of them.
So talking about expectations before we end, do you want to give us a sneak peek on what Neeko's midscope is going to be about?
Leak Neeko, where is she?
Well, I can give, so there's a lot of things going on in Neeko, but I can give the one sneak peek, which is her passive, instead of just turning to other champions, is now other things, anything. She can turn into a plant, she can turn into a team mushroom, she can turn into a minion, a monster, and a champion.
Can she turn into a better teammate?
O kurde. Dobra, to jest fajne. Tylko czemu musimy czekać prawie cały film, żeby się o tym dowiedzieć? O kurczę, bardzo fajna rozkmina. To jest jak w tym Gary z modzie, czy coś takiego. Były takie coś, że się może zmienić za dany item, nie? Fajne.
She'll actually probably be a worse teammate.
That's a core gameplay mechanic in League. All right, so you have a Neeko that turns into wards, literally, coming to a rift near you. Hopefully soon, TM. But that's all we have for today. Thanks for hanging out with.
Dobra, no to niewiele powiedzieli, ale coś czuję, że będą bugi z tą Neeko od razu. Ale fajne, no fajnie, że cokolwiek takiego powiedzieli w tym filmie, bo naprawdę był totalnie przegadany i nic nie powiedzieli poza tą Neeko. Dobra, dzięki. Dzięki, elo, trzymajcie się. No fajnie, fajne Neeko. Ale no, 7 minut gadania o niczym. Dobra, stan gry. Zobaczmy co tutaj. Łapka w dół? Nie, no tam łapę w górę, żeby się nie z tego nie obrazili. Mi też dajcie łapkę w górę. Dobra, stan gry. Zobaczmy. Jak tam? Czy są zadowoleni? O, tych znam.
Matthew Froxon Long Harrison. I'm the design lead of the Summoners Rift team. And I'm Patrick Petrie Noonan. I'm the product lead of the Summoners Rift team.
O, napisy. Było to. Polski.
And the Summoners Rift team, we own game health and game balance in all of the major games.
Stan gry ma 900 do 300 łapek. Oj.
System updates in League of Legends. So this will be things like the champion durability update and preseason that we do each year. And today we wanted to talk to you a bit about just some of our
thoughts. Ten film mnie chyba najbardziej ciekawi.
On state of the game and balance and things that we spend a lot of time thinking about and working on. I know an interesting one is thinking about position health. And when I say position, I mean like top, jungle, mid, ADC, and support, of course. We look at select rates, like how many people are playing it, what do people feel and think when they're playing that, but we also think a lot about something called position agency too. Yeah, so for position agency, unlike champion win rates, we can't really look at the win rates of a position because there's one in each team. And so instead we look at something called position agency, which is the impact of a position on the game's outcome. So for example, if a jungler were to gank mid and get a successful kill, that's likely going to be some amount of impact towards the game outcome. And so we use a combination of some data models to figure out position agency, as well as our intuitive understanding as game designers and as players of the game to see whether a position is powerful or not. When you look at like how position agency is going across all the roles in the game right now, is there anything you're seeing that stands out as needing a bit more attention?
Może to, że AD carry do 15 minuty jest totalnie useless i nie da się grać.
Throughout the year, we did, changes like durability update, the objective changes in patch 12.14, the teleport changes in patch 12.1. And these changes all tended to have one role getting the bad end of the deal, which was top lane. Both top laners were less likely to be able to kill squishy champions playing in the mid or support or AD carry positions, as well as finding it harder to impact dragon fights, which had become a little more impactful overall to the game outcome. And so what we observed was top lane going down in agency, and so we tried to give some of that back in preseason. That's not to say our job there is done. We do think that there are some gaps with the way that top laners find satisfaction in playing the role, and we observe that there's, just...
Te zmiany, co tam trochę więcej golda, jak spa, tak? O to mu chodzi? Okej.
General split of players in the top lane overall. There are some top laners that really want to fight 1v1, and there are some top laners that really want to impact the map, and we want to make sure that a lot of those playstyles are viable as well. Yeah, and I know in working on preseason, another one of the big things we were looking at is how we could improve jungle select. So as probably a lot of players realize, like,
O.
we don't have the right amount of
A
people
będzie ciekawe. Max, dzięki za 9 miesięcy, siemanko.
playing all the different roles. This leads to other things like increase in autofill, like less quality matchmaking. And so even though jungle's a very powerful role, we noticed that, not quite as many players are wanting to play it. So I do know that we created some changes for preseason that we're hoping will encourage some players to try out the jungle for the first time, maybe shift back over, making it a little bit more approachable. In this latest preseason too, we worked on a bunch of the new tank items together. And kind of our approach to tank items in the latest preseason did represent some shift in philosophy around kind of how we look at the mythic item system.
Yeah, so when we first started with the mythic item system, we were generally looking at a few specific goals. We wanted players to always be able to choose between several different mythic items. We always wanted mythic items to be present in your build, and so they were generally tuned to be a strong early purchase. But as we've kind of seen it play out over the years, it's had a few negative effects, namely...
Ciekawe, co się jakże będzie, że jest turbo OP.
There are some champions who don't feel like they have a great mythic item, and so being forced to buy a mythic that doesn't feel right for their champion can feel pretty bad. And also we've seen players wanting to opt into specific legendary items like Blade of the Ruined King that do feel great for their champion.
Yeah.
And so kind of our swing at the tank
Ej,
mythics in
jak dla mnie Botrk powinien być w ogóle mytycznym przedmiotem. Tak uważam.
preseason kind of reflects a change in our philosophy where we're not trying to pigeonhole champions into buying a specific mythic item every game. And the tank items are designed so that there are some mythics that you can purchase first, and there are some mythics that you can purchase second, and the whole system overall is just a lot more flexible. But we still wanted mythic items to present this kind of high fantasy, high build power over the game with the mythic passive, and we think that this will strike kind of a good balance between early purchases of mythic items and later build-defining purchases for them.
And I know we're still always looking at the different classes and champions in the game. While we are a bit looser on you always have to choose between multiple mythic items, because if there's an item a champion loves, that's fine. We want them to be able to take it. But we are still looking for cases where maybe a champion does want more choice in the item system.
Znowu trochę leją wodę w tym
Or maybe there's
odcinku.
just a certain type of item that their champion would really benefit by, and it's not even available as an option. So there might be new items coming out over the next year,
Oh,
perhaps.
no.
Yeah, perhaps.
Ah.
But yeah, when thinking about kind of the state of the game and balance in the game, I know probably one of the hottest topics for players is champion balance. That's kind of the main vehicle that players experience the game. How strong is my champion? How strong is the enemy champion?
No mogliby jakieś, chociaż nad jakimś przedmiotem przepracujemy, kurde, dla tanków, albo dla asasynów, czy coś. A tu, no może będzie.
It was really exciting to see the champion durability update go out, and we saw it live. The fights are lasting longer, players have more opportunity for strategic decisions. It was exciting to see that this doesn't seem to have impacted bloodiness or amount of fighting or kills. That was something we were worried about. And then we've also had a chance now to see this play out at the highest levels of play and professional play and at Worlds.
Yeah. I think overall,
No piękne to były Worlds, piękne były.
you said we were very nervous about increasing the durability of every champion in the game and how that would impact bloodiness. However, we've kind of observed that there were some surprising outcomes from the objective changes in particular. We intended to make objectives a little more tanky, so there was more tension around fights. And to make
A
them...
to jest ta piąta gra. O kurde. Pamiętam to. 6 nad ranem. Mi było oglądane. No. 6, 5, coś takiego. Jasno było już na zewnątrz.
more rewarding to take in compensation for that. And what we've observed is that, especially in pro play, engagements around these objectives have been very high tension. The team can't just burst the dragon and then run away.
Yeah.
Instead, they have to...
No, te zmiany z tym, że tam Nashor i właśnie Smoki mają więcej HP, wydaje mi się, że to jest na duży plus ogólnie ta zmiana.
kind of think carefully about how they're committing their resources. Maybe there's a bit of back and forth, and it's allowed for a lot more of this back and forth between teams and high tension engagements, which has been really exciting to watch overall on the pro play stage.
Yeah, it's been exciting watching that at Worlds, but now that we're kind of focusing back in on live play and the rest of the player base and what champion balance is like, we do still think there's opportunities to improve our current approach to champion balance.
Yeah, for sure. So our champion balance framework that we did a few years ago, it served us pretty well. The game feels like it's in a pretty good spot, numerically balanced wise. But moving forward, I think there's a lot of opportunity in making sure that champions feel good to play, that they're satisfying their gameplay fantasy that the player signs up for when they lock in their champion.
Czyli ogólnie jest git, tak? Ciekawe.
And so even though a champion might be numerically balanced, it doesn't mean that they necessarily feel the most satisfying that they can be to play. And so we want to have a kind of heightened focus on that moving through this year, as well as kind of making sure that all champions fit the strategic purpose in the game alongside that. There are a few other deficiencies with our champion balance framework that we've observed. So a champion might be quote unquote balanced, but they might be on the weak side of balanced or the strong side of balance for an extended period of time, but it doesn't result in them being changed. And so we're kind of making sure that champions, especially when they've been in a certain state for a long time, either too weak or too strong, but not quite strong or not quite weak enough to receive a direct change, that those champions will be looked at. And so we think that there are many other small changes like this that we kind of need to investigate and see if they're going to be good to put into practice.
Great. So speaking of a good state of the game and the start of the new ranked season.
Powiedzcie coś konkretnego, proszę. Nie no, rady dla graczy, co się chcą wspinać, naprawdę.
Any recommendations for the players out there to start their rank climb?
So I think the jungle is going to be a vibrant place for champions of all types.
Tak, polecamy dżunglerom. Pograć w dżungli, tak. Jeśli chcecie stracić waszą psychikę, grajcie dżunglę.
To at least go in initially. We think the jungle
Jeszcze
sets
team
are
of
going
dżungli
to be
dali.
meaningfully improving champions' jungle clears and their ability to perform in the jungle. Some other stuff with the tank items I think is going to be super exciting and
Przedmioty dla obrońców, dla tanków. Okej.
super excited to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I'm
No
excited
mógłby jakąś zajaweczkę puścić, no.
to hopefully take my Singe back into the jungle. We'll see how that works out. But anyways, yeah, it's been a pleasure talking about just our thoughts on the state of the game, and we just want to wish all the players out there best of luck on their start of the ranked season and happy climbing.
Yeah, good luck.
Znowu nic nie powiedzieli, kurde, nie wiem, po co ten film jest w ogóle? Nie wiem. Useless. No pogadali z jakieś głupoty i tyle. Nie wiem. Kurde. No tak puściłem te filmy, bo nie wiedziałem co dla nich jest, ale w sumie to, kurczę, można by to skrócić do... Wydaje mi się, że te wszystkie filmy, co widzieliśmy, można skrócić do 5 minut tak naprawdę. Do 8 maksymalnie. To wtedy reklamy sobie zarabiam jeszcze. No... No niewiele powiedzieli. Zapowiedzieli Championy, to fajnie. Tu stwierdzili, no ogólnie wszystko jest git, fajnie jest, dobrze robią chłopaki, dobry przekaz leci. Ci sobie pogadali, pokazali Neeko, fajnie. Tutaj są zadowoleni z tego, jak się gracze zachowują, jest git, dobrze robią chłopaki. Tyle. No nie wiem, takie no średnie te filmy. Mało konkretne po prostu. Ale przynajmniej tyle, że coś wstawili. Tyle dobrego. No bo też widziałem na Reddicie, że był jakiś temat, że czemu w ogóle Riot nie hypuje tego, że zaraz jest sezon. No i w sumie to jest dobre pytanie, bo rzeczywiście trochę jakoś tak cicho jest rzeczywiście z tym. Też zawsze na start sezonu był chyba jakiś film taki, wiecie, z muzyką i tak dalej. Też na razie tego nie ma, ale może będzie w środę? Tak? Do 7 minut filmy przed ten? Nie, od 8 dopiero można reklamy wstawiać. No to ci nie zarobią, niestety. A 3 aktorów wynajęli. Ajajciu, no cóż. Jutro będzie? No albo jutro, albo pojutrze. No to też będzie oglądane na streamie i pewnie później reakcję wrzucę. Tyle z tego. Tyle. Pogadali, popieprzyli i nic z tego, kurde, konkretnego nie wyszło. Riot Games. Kochana firma.